In the opening scene, Megan is enjoying herself at a wedding, taking snapshots of a lion. She soon gets a call informing her that she has incoming guests. The sight of a plane in the sky is strange, but Megan pays no mind as she zooms off. On the other hand, Tim finally lands and is excited to see the wildlife. At the lodge, Nazizwe, also known as Mom Nosy, warmly welcomes Tim with a nice handshake. He's glad to meet her. He introduces his videographer, Darius Pacheco, who's originally from Cape Town, and Mom Nosy welcomes him home too. Then, they head out to the reception. Meanwhile, Megan meets up with her clients Mr. and Mrs. Foster, happy to be their ranger. She suggests they meet at 6:30 the next morning. On the other hand, Tim is very satisfied with what he sees, thanking Mom Nosy for opening her reserve for their project. Mom Nosy mentions she has already seen the presentation and believes it will be big. She informs him that his ranger is ready to work, but Tim decides to take a look around for himself on the first day. Tim is taking a look at the framed animal pictures when Megan walks in with her hands full of items at risk of falling. He wonders if he can help her, but decides against it since she stabilizes while striking a conversation regarding the framed pictures. He believes they're beautiful and is surprised to find out that she's the photographer. He compliments her, and while she's grateful, she's also a bit unfriendly. She points out that he can't buy the works, but she compromises, offering to send some to him so he can see them while he's around. After that, they formally get acquainted. At nighttime, Megan is still busy trying to fix her camera when Kamara sees her. Kamara is surprised by her resourcefulness and admires how she can juggle working at the reserve with her PhD studies. Megan explains that for her, she's living her dream in South Africa. We find out her thesis is due soon, and she wants to finish it so she won't be disappointed in herself. Not wanting to think about school, she asks if they can go to Boma for dinner, and then they head out. Tim and Darius are also at Boma for dinner, and Mom Nosy, who was able to catch them all at once, introduces them to each other. Darius and Kamara share a moment as they shake hands. Tim promises that they'll see more of each other since they're spending 3 weeks there. As they head back, Kamara is excited about the idea of spending weeks with 2 handsome men, but Megan sours the mood, choosing to talk about work. The next day, Megan is in her car when she spots Tim and Darius setting up their camera. She's intrigued by their full equipment, and she finds out that they are theme park designers, searching for ideas for a new attraction. Megan and Tim get into a comfortable conversation about how she started photography. During this, she clarifies her real career as being a researcher. When her clients arrive, she warns them about the wild animals that roam the place. Megan drives and shows the foster couple around the reserve, allowing them to see various lovely animals. Unfortunately, she gets distracted when she sees a drone passing by. She notifies Kamara about it, continuing her job, but later, she sees a drone again. Meanwhile, Tim and Darius are fawning over the wonderful drone. Megan shows up, informing them that it's illegal to use a drone in a legislated protected area, and that they can be arrested. This is a problem for Tim, as he needs a drone to do his work efficiently, but Megan is adamant that he can't use it. They get into an argument since Tim believes she's just against technology, but Megan doesn't care, telling him to withdraw his drone and take a ranger like everybody else. The next day, Mom Nosy informs Megan of the change in plans, as she is no longer the ranger for the Fosters. When she goes out, she sees Tim and Darius instead, but she doesn't want to drive them, thinking there has been a mistake. Tim assures her that it isn't a mistake before they all enter the car. Tim also informs her that they'd like to see a giraffe, so she sarcastically says she'll call them. When Megan reaches a certain tree, she stops, telling them to keep quiet. After a while, a giraffe comes out. The excited Tim orders Darius to quickly take a picture of it, causing Megan to laugh. Upon their request and her suggestion, Megan follows the giraffe until they reach a herd. Back at the lodge, Tim tells Darius to go ahead while he stays behind to apologize to Megan for using a drone the previous day, and for not taking correction well. He even takes the blame when she tries to apologize for being a very passionate person when it comes to wildlife. They put it behind them, and Tim manages to coax Megan into having a drink at the veranda. While there, he takes a look at some pictures she brought with her, admiring them. She admits that she can be a professional, but she doesn't want to, since the photos are only for her research job. Her dream was always to come down to South Africa and be in the wildlife. When Tim points out that it's an expensive dream, she explains that she actually went there when she saw the offer for the Rangers program, and became a ranger, got money and went back to do her PhD. She explains that she went back to South Africa some months back to do her research for her thesis in ecology, and she also laments that her thesis is due soon, admitting she's having a hard time finding a creative way to present it. Tim is impressed by how well thought out her life plan is, but feels bad for all the pressure she's under. She needs to head back to work, so Tim offers to walk with her since he doesn't want their conversation to end. They talk more about her thesis and how she's working on the big cats and how they communicate. Tim admits that he admires her for choosing to come to South Africa and sticking with it. They arrive at her destination, and both admit that it was nice talking to each other, even though Megan did most of the talking. Tim claims he's an inquisitive human, but doesn't have the patience to be a scientist as he loves his job, especially traveling. While Tim is working later that day, he looks at pictures of the big cats. The next day, they go around the reserve and have fun as they take pictures of various animals. They have their lunch at the giraffe garden. Darius, who wants to take a few shots of the warthogs and impalas, leaves them, promising to catch up with them later. At one point, Mob Nosy collects their plates, reminding them not to miss a certain event later at the boma. Megan explains that it's like a barbecue. Megan asks if he's interested to go for a walk in the safari, but Tim is anxious about the roaming lions. Megan laughs and assures him that they have places cleared by their trackers, so it's safe, as they often take their ranger trainees there. He jokes that this is another job she can add to her CV. They arrive at their destination and see the animals. Tim is ecstatic about the safari being an attraction, but he doesn't know how he can present it to his viewers. To Megan, his work sounds exciting, but Tim finds her job much more exciting than his. This is when she tries to make him realize that not everyone can do what he does, which is creating. Curious, she asks how he got the job, so Tim explains that after his parents took him to Disney when he was 10, he was inspired to create videos. During their conversation, she finds out that he lives in New York. Tim works for Calvin Designs and is about to sign up for a proposal for Chipperfield theme parks, which would be a big step in his career. Tom is surprised that he's the one who spoke more this time, but Megan doesn't mind because she's getting to know him. At night, the event is in full swing and we see them dance and sing together. The next day, Kamara and Megan tease each other since Megan danced and laughed a lot the previous night, as opposed to how she normally danced. Kamara admits that Darius is cute, but quickly pushes her thought aside, expressing how she thinks Tim is perfect for Megan. However, she disagrees, pointing out how seemingly perfect guys has never really worked out for her, so she'd rather keep to her faithful companion, which is work. Kamara tries to convince her that work isn't the only thing in life. She can't because Megan is taking her PhD, and it is the most important priority for Megan at that point of her life. After confirming that Megan is going with her to the school the next day, she asks if they can invite Tim and Darius, because she'd like to spend more time with Darius and it would be awkward if she invites him alone. Megan is reluctant at first, but gives in after listening to her reason. The next day at the school, Tim and Darius are grateful to be invited. Megan and Kamara inform them that the school was raised to what it is today by Mom Nosy. Kamara asks if they'd like to go see the students, and they do. They meet the children, who are playing drums and dancing. Tim and Megan join in, having fun. Back at the lodge, Mom Nosy warmly welcomes Amy Bradshaw. While she's on a call with her dad, she sees Tim arriving along with Megan, so she calls his attention. He's happy and surprised to see her there. We find out that they were college friends. He introduces Amy and Megan to each other. Tim then wonders what she's doing there, and Amy, who has a lot to say, invites him for lunch. He tries to rope Megan in, but she excuses herself, assuring him that there's enough time till their next drive before leaving. Megan looks back as she leaves, not happy with the way Tim and Amy are getting along. During lunch, Tim and Amy catch up and Amy explains that they're going to be working together because her father bought his company, and she's now in charge of the theme park division, making her his boss. She mentions she was surprised because she had no idea that he was working in the company. This is why she decided to inform him herself of the change since they'd known each other for a long time, and he would have been taken aback. Tim appreciates her thoughts, and while they're working together, he invites her on a drive to show her his new concept. During the drive, Amy suggests that Tim's picture be taken along with the animals as it would be better for publicity. But Megan refuses because she believes humans are just spectators to the life of these animals, and they shouldn't interrupt them, since it's dangerous. They decide to find a clear space for his picture to be taken instead, but Amy isn't satisfied and wants to see animals behind him. She questions why they aren't using any drones, and when Tim explains that it's against the rules, she rolls her eyes promising to speak with Mom Nosy. Megan and Tim suggest finding another safari. Later, they find a river with some hippopotamuses, and Amy tries to get Tim to move closer. But he can't because it's dangerous and the animals are fast. Again, Amy tries to get the drones moving, but Megan doesn't allow it, enforcing the rules. The next day, Tim finds Megan and apologizes for the previous day's debacle. He explains that he and Amy were college friends and even dated once before. As they talk, Amy passes by, seeing them. Curious, Megan asks why she's there, and he explains that her dad bought the company he works in and she's his boss. Moving on to her, he asks about her work and she talks about how being a researcher is harder than being a ranger. She's still yet to research white lions and leopards, because it's hard to find them. Tim is intrigued since he has never met any of them. Megan invites him and Amy to come with her and Kamara as they just got wind of one. Since Amy is busy, he'll be the only one to join her instead. He's excited and rushes to change. On the safari, Megan, Tim, Kamara, and Darius are in their car with their binoculars and cameras, ready to watch the leopard. They see her from afar, and she's beautiful. Megan and Kamara suggest that they drive through another route to get a better view, but as Tim moves the car forward a little bit, they hear the tire burst. Megan instructs Tim and Darius to stand guard while they fix the tire, but the men are scared. They are both shaking, and immediately after Megan and Kamara are done, they run back to the car. Kamara and Darius head back to the lodge while Tim and Megan move closer to see the leopard, at awe of its beauty. At the lodge, Amy gives her dad a call, complaining that she's not getting enough time to spend with Tim since he's hanging around Megan instead. Her father encourages her, especially since she's been his friend for a long time now, which is what counts. He reminds her that getting a hold of Tim is important. They can't let Tim go because he's their best asset, adding that the Chipperfield contract is a priority. Meanwhile, in the woods, Megan convinces Tim to go for a walk, assuring him that he's safe with her. Once again, he mentions how he admires her for her choice and devotion to what she loves, but wants to know if she has time for her personal life and her love life. She feels like her work is her personal life, and reveals that after she got heartbroken by her fiancé who suddenly changed life plans, she gave up on love. Tim wants to know what would happen if she falls in love with someone unexpectedly, and he's disappointed when she admits that the timing would have to be right. She asks about him, so he honestly tells her that he isn't in a relationship since his last one ended a year ago. He wants to find love, although work is always in the way, something that Megan can relate to. Tim thinks they work a lot because they haven't found the right person. At the lodge, Amy complains to Darius about Megan's stiff attitude towards rules. She wants him to use the drones, but Darius doesn't want to get in trouble. Amy looks through the pictures and compliments him for doing a good job. She promises to put word in for him to the CEO. Darius is grateful because he didn't know if he would remain employed after the company changes. Before she leaves, she sighs, thinking the pictures would be better with a drone. But unfortunately, they can't do anything about it, and her statement leaves Darius thinking. In the woods, Megan's camera breaks again while she and Tim are taking pictures. He hands her his, which is the latest model, and she takes a snapshot of him, which comes out looking nice. They realize they're too close, so Megan tries to play it cool, reminding him they should get back before it's dark. The tension is strong and they almost kiss, but the leopard almost climbs on a tree trunk, scaring Tim. When it leaves, he wonders Megan keeps her composure. He then lets go of her hand, realizing he subconsciously held it. Following this, they head to the lodge for dinner. The dinner is grand because Kamara has been promoted and is no longer a rookie ranger. Megan initiates a wonderful toast. Tim also stands up, giving a toast to Megan for the wonderful and eventful experience, while Amy watches them, feeling jealous. They relax after the dinner, and as Darius is playing guitar for Kamara on the side, Amy, Tim, and Megan discuss something. Amy thinks she'll join them the next time they go out, as it appears they had an awesome day. When Tim goes to get a nightcap for Megan, Amy uses the opportunity to tell her that Tim is having fun. She makes a sly comment about wondering what they'd have been like if they were still together. Tim returns, and Amy bids them goodnight. The following day is a busy day and everyone has their work cut out for them. Meanwhile, on her way inside, Amy turns back with a look of regret and longing as she sees the main characters getting along well. The next day at breakfast, Tim explains that he had a lot of ideas to incorporate into his prototype, but he stopped working on it. Leaving work, Amy asks if they could ever go back to being the type of friends they were in college, since she's quite envious of his relationship with Megan. To Amy's disappointment, Tim explains that it's not possible, as the 10 years they were apart has made them different people, and she is now his boss. In the woods, while looking at the hyenas, Kamara asks how things are going with Tim. Kamara is baffled that Megan is talking about love, but she brushes it off, saying that once Tim is gone, she'll be back to her normal life. They see a drone flying over their heads, and Megan is appalled. But she is sure that it isn't Tim's. She heads to meet Mom Nosy, wondering if she has any idea of who is flying the drone. Mom Nosy, who has already received a report from others, admits that the only drone she has registered is Tim's drone, but Megan doesn't want to believe her. Nosy goes on to warn her that her license might be suspended by the anti-poaching team, and the only way to prevent that is for Tim to submit his drone. After finding out that Tim was in the giraffe garden with Amy, she rushes to their location. When Megan gets there, she asks to speak to Tim privately. When she inquires about the drone, he admits knowing nothing about it. Unfortunately, she has to confiscate his drone since her name is a ranger, and her whole research is on the line. Tim feels annoyed that she's accusing him, but he understands the situation and assures her that it's only Darius who has access to his drone, and that he won't fly it. He promises to hand over the drone that day, which makes her feel a little relieved. Tim goes straight to where Darius is, asking him if he knows anything about it. He tells him to hand over the drone to Mom Nosy. Megan meets Mom Nosy that night, asking for an update on the drone and assuring her that she wouldn't allow such a thing on the reserve. Mom Nosy tells her not to worry about it, as she's working on IT, and offers her a cold glass of white wine to calm her nerves. Megan steps outside to drink the wine and sees Tim there. He apologizes and assures her that he has nothing to do with the drone, since he wouldn't do anything to jeopardize her research, and Megan understands. She admits that she was a little freaked out and anxious earlier, because she doesn't want to be known as a rule breaker when she leaves the reserve. Tim encourages her, reminding her that she's the smartest person he knows. They then head to the kitchen to make some malva pudding, and Tim loves it. Megan invites Tim to a day out in the village, since she's heading out with Kamara and Darius. He accepts the offer, stating he needs a break. She tries to invite Amy too, but she's busy. At the village, they meet Kamara's family in the market. And going around, Tim gets some traditional clothes for his mom, who loves to sew for her grandchildren. This leads them to talking about families, and he wonders if she has a big one, but she admits she doesn't. We find out Megan was raised by her mom, since her parents divorced. This instilled her with the determination to achieve something in life, because she didn't want to be a disappointment. They both give something to each other, and it turns out to be the same type of bracelet, something they both love. Back at the lodge, Kamara and Darius ditch Megan and Tim as they head to download some snapshots. Amy meets them, and Megan leaves after confirming that their drive the next day is still happening. Amy is glad that Tim is back, since she thinks the lodge can get rather boring. She asks him if they can head to dinner and have champagne because they have something to celebrate. However, Tim is tired and would rather just have coffee. Megan goes to where Kamara and Darius are, and Darius confesses that he was the one who flew the drone, because he just wanted to please his new boss. Megan is flabbergasted, but forgives him since he is being honest. Darius asks her not to inform Tim or Amy, so Megan advises him to tell Tim himself. While having coffee, Amy puts forward the idea of Tim taking more office responsibilities. She wants to partner with him, making him the vice president. It seems like great news, but he hesitates to accept, since he loves being in the field more than at the office. In the woods the next day, Megan is disappointed and apologizes to Tim because the animals she wants to see are not there, but he doesn't mind. She asks if he'd come the next day, and he confirms that he is, but remembers that he has to stop at Johannesburg to get some things. When she asks if he can get something for her, he asks if she'd come with him instead. She agrees, knowing it will be a fun time. In Johannesburg the next day, Tim and Megan have lunch together after securing his package. When she asks about work, he remembers that he only has 1 week left, so he admits that he's going to miss her in South Africa. When she says she'll miss him too, he asks if he can visit her, but Megan states that long-distance relationships don't work for her, and she doesn't want to get her heart broken again. She suggests they should just enjoy the remaining time they have. Left with no choice, Tim agrees and holds her hand. Back in the village, Tim and Megan get to see the white lions again and are happy that they can share the moment. Megan suggests that they have a sundowner. He reveals the opportunity to be Amy's partner and how unsure he is about it since it's going to be more office work. However, Megan is concerned about whether he would cope with Amy because they have a history. He reveals that it wouldn't affect his work, but Megan doesn't think Amy would be okay. The next day, Darius comes clean to Tim about the drone, and Tim wonders why he didn't admit it earlier. Darius explains that he was scared of losing his job. He admits that even if Amy implied doing it, he was the one who broke the rule, and is ready to take full responsibility for it. Still, Tim wants to have a word with Amy, assuring Darius that he'll always have a job when he's with him. Darius meets Amy, asking her about the drone incident and if she told Darius to fly it. But Amy claims she doesn't know anything about it, even if she told everyone she wanted to use the drone. Tim is annoyed at her pretense, especially since Megan's whole research might have been put on hold. Amy feels offended by the accusations, claiming she's only there to help his career. Fed up, Tim declares he doesn't need her help. He also rejects the offer to work with her because of this incident. The next morning, Tim informs Megan about his decision to quit, which catches her off guard. She apologizes because he is about to lose a job he loves, but Tim doesn't see it as an issue because now he remembers how Amy used to be. However, he has to go to a meeting the next day to contact his old boss, wanting to know what they can do. He also asks Megan to have dinner with him, wanting to see her one last time. During the dinner, Tim tries to hold on to a last hope of being with Megan, but she still refuses since their lives are too different, and neither of them wants to get in each other's way. She refuses to see him before he leaves tomorrow, so he holds her hand, cherishing their last moment. In the next scene, when Tim and Darius are leaving, Mom Nosy and Kamara bid them goodbye. Megan, who comes out too late, cries as she sees him go. She goes about her day, but things seem different from the usual. She feels empty. At the lodge, Mom Nosy hands her a box that Tim left, hoping they can find a way to see each other. She also tells her to follow her heart. She then hands her the confirmation that her license won't be withdrawn. She's sorry that the situation ever happened, but Megan doesn't mind because she even learned from it. She opens the box and sees a camera in it, with a letter from Tim saying that he left the white lion pictures and that he'd love to see more white lions. Finally, she sees a framed picture of the two of them. She eventually takes more pictures and sends them to him. In the next scene, it's Megan's turn to leave, and everyone is emotional, knowing they'll miss her a lot. She promises to be back, expressing how she is also sad that she has to go. 2 months later, in her office, Megan gets notified of a visitor, and is shocked to see Kamara, who surprises her, revealing she's visiting Darius for a couple of weeks. She asks Megan to join her in seeing Darius's short film project, so they head out together. Later, Megan finds herself in a strange plain-looking place. While she's looking around, she is overjoyed to hear Tim's voice. He admits that he has missed her and thought about her every day. Remembering how she said she wanted something spectacular for her thesis project, he shows her what he's been working on. Suddenly, the plane walls light up with the video of the wildlife. Megan feels happy because it feels real. Tim explains that he and his former boss established their own company and decided to continue their idea since it was originally theirs. The Chipperfield company bought it. The company wants more of his concept and he can work anywhere. He wants to travel the world with Megan. He expresses how he has never been sure of anything, stating their time in South Africa was his best experience, and hers too. He proclaims his love for her, begging her to make his dream their reality. Megan is happy because he's the first to make his dream fit with hers. She confesses her love for him and they kiss as the walls light up due to the ongoing fireworks. 1 month later, Megan undergoes her thesis defense with Tim's Chipperfield theme parks. After that, he congratulates her on finally getting her PhD.